Most people keep saying tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll change. Tomorrow I'll start. Tomorrow I'll get serious. But listen to me. Tomorrow is not promised. The future you keep dreaming about is being decided by what you're doing right now. Not later. Not next week. Now, you don't need more time. You need more urgency. You don't need another motivational video. You need execution. Because the clock is moving whether you move or not. Most people are waiting on a time that does not exist. They keep talking about yesterday or dreaming about tomorrow, but they keep missing the only moment that actually responds to effort. Right now, this moment, this breath, this second. You don't control yesterday anymore, and you don't command tomorrow yet. The past already made its choices, and the future hasn't taken your call. But now is listening. Now is the only time that obeys you. And if you don't understand that, you will spend your entire life feeling busy, but never fulfilled, tired, but never accomplished, hopeful, but never changed. You can't negotiate with the past. You can't apologize enough to rewrite it. You can't explain it away. You can't relive it and do it better. It already happened. Some of it was good. Some of it was painful. Some of it still hurts when you think about it. But here's the truth. Most people don't want to accept. The past does not need your energy anymore. Every minute you spend replaying old mistakes, old failure, old regrets is a minute stolen from the only time that can actually improve your life. The past can teach you. Yes, it can inform you, but it cannot obey you. It will not change just because you wish harder. And then there's the future. Oh, the future sounds so sweet. Tomorrow feels safe. Tomorrow feels clean. Tomorrow feels like a fresh start. Tomorrow is where people put their discipline, their focus, their courage. Tomorrow is where they promise they'll wake up early, work harder, stop making excuses, stop wasting time. But tomorrow is a liar if you don't respect now. Because tomorrow is built entirely out of today's. And if today is lazy, tomorrow will be weak. If today is undisciplined, tomorrow will be disappointing. The future does not magically become better just because time passes. Time alone doesn't improve anything. Effort does. Discipline does. Urgency does. Now is the only time that listens to command. You tell now to wake up early, and it responds. You tell now to open the book, to start the business, to make the call, to put in the work, and it responds. You tell tomorrow to do it, and tomorrow says, we'll see. You tell the future you'll get serious one day, and the future stays silent. But now answers immediately. That's why now is powerful. That's why now is dangerous if you waste it. That's why now separates people who talk about change from people who actually change. Most people don't fail because they aren't talented enough. They fail because they keep postponing their greatness. They keep delaying the work. They keep pushing responsibility forward like it'll be lighter tomorrow. But responsibility doesn't get lighter with time. It gets heavier. Regret gets heavier. Missed opportunities get heavier. Unused potential gets heavier. And one day you wake up and the weight is unbearable. Not because life was unfair, but because you kept ignoring the only moment that could have helped you carry it. You don't need more motivation. You don't need another speech. You don't need perfect conditions. You need to understand the value of now. Because once you understand now, excuses start to sound ridiculous. When you realize that this moment will never come back, scrolling feels expensive. Complaining feels wasteful. Waiting feels irresponsible. You start to treat time like the non-renewable resource it is. You stop acting like you have forever. You start acting like today mattered. 'Cause it does. Look at your life honestly, not emotionally honestly. Where would you be if you had taken action 6 months ago instead of waiting? Where would your finances be if you had started when the idea first came to you? Where would your health be if you had acted the first time your body warned you? Where would your confidence be if you had stopped delaying the work that scares you? The answer hurts, but it also empowers you. Because if delay created this pain, action can create progress. And action only exists now. People say they're overwhelmed. They say they're confused. They say they don't know where to start. But most of the time, that's not true. They know exactly what to do. They just don't want to do it now. They want to do it when it's easier, when they feel ready, when the fear is gone. But fear doesn't leave because you wait. Fear leaves when you move. Confidence doesn't arrive before action. Confidence follows action. And action only happens in the present. Now it's uncomfortable. That's why people avoid it. Now demands effort. Now demands focus. Now demands focus. Now demands sacrifice. Tomorrow makes promises without requiring payment, but now charges full price. And greatness always costs something up front. If you're not willing to pay in the present, you'll pay later in regret. There's no discount path to success. There's no delayed payment plan for discipline. You either do the work now or you deal with the consequences later. Every successful person you admire learned how to respect now. They didn't wait for everything to make sense. They didn't wait until they felt feelings. They moved while they were uncertain. They acted while they were tired. They showed up while they were doubting themselves. They used now as a weapon, not an excuse. They understood that momentum is born in the present, not in planning forever. You can plan all you want, but planning without execution is just intellectual procrastination. You can dream all you want, but dreaming without action is just entertainment. The world doesn't reward intentions, it rewards implementation. And implementation lives in now. That's why you have to stop romanticizing the future and start respecting the present. The future you want is not impressed by your ideas. It's waiting for your discipline. Now doesn't ask if you're ready. Now asks if you're willing. Willing to start small, willing to be bad before you're good. Willing to look foolish before you look successful. Willing to be uncomfortable before you're confident. That willingness only shows up in the present. Tomorrow never tests your character. Now does. Every time you choose action now, you build trust with yourself. And trust is everything. Self-belief isn't built by affirmations alone. It's built by keeping promises to yourself in the present moment. When you say you'll do something and you do it now, your confidence grows. When you say you'll do something and you delay, your confidence erodes. Over time, that pattern becomes your identity. You either become someone who acts or someone who postpones. And identities are shaped one moment at a time. And that's also where healing happens. Not in wishing things were different. Not in hoping time will fix everything. Healing requires intentional work, honest reflection, difficult conversations, and uncomfortable growth. All of which must happen now. Avoidance feels good in the moment, but it robs you long term. Facing things now hurts briefly, but heals permanently. The choice is always the same. Short-term discomfort or long-term pain. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the step that exists now. That's how progress actually works. One discipline moment stacked on top of another. One hard choice followed by another. One day where you didn't quit, followed by another day where you didn't quit. Eventually, consistency compounds, but it only compounds if you show up now again and again. Stop measuring your life by how busy you are and start measuring it by how intentional you are. Busy people are everywhere. Focused people are rare. Intentional people understand now. They don't let the moment slip away unnoticed. They decide what matters today and they protect it aggressively. They don't let distractions steal what discipline is trying to build. Now is where legacies begin. Not in big speeches, not in dramatic moments, but in quiet decisions no one applauds. The decision to wake up earlier. The decision to work when no one is watching. The decision to keep going when results are slow. These decisions don't feel legendary. When you make them, they feel ordinary. But years later, people call them extraordinary. The difference is that you made them when they matter now. You don't have to fix your entire life today. You just have to respect today. You just have to win this moment. You just have to do the next right thing with urgency and intention. When you do that, today stops being overwhelming and starts being powerful. One moment at a time, you take control of the only thing you actually own. Now it's not loud. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And if you're not paying attention, it passes quiet. That's why people wake up years later wondering where the time went. Time didn't disappear. They just never fully showed up for it. Don't let that be your story. Don't let now slip through your fingers while you're waiting for some imaginary perfect moment. This moment is enough. This moment is powerful. This moment is yours. Command it, respect it, use it. Because once it's gone, no amount of wishing will bring it back. And the life you want is waiting on one thing. Not tomorrow, not someday, not when you feel ready. Dreams don't collapse all at once. They don't usually explode in some dramatic moment where everything falls apart and everyone sees it. Most dreams die quietly, slowly, day by day. choice by choice. They fade in silence while life keeps moving. And the most dangerous thing about that kind of death is that you don't even notice it happening. You still talk about the dream. You still think about it sometimes. You still tell people one day. But deep down, something is slipping away, not because you failed, but because you delayed. Failure is loud. Failure hurts. Failure gets your attention. Delay is subtle. Delay feels harmless. Delay whispers, not today. Delay says, you got time. Delay tells you, just wait until things calm down. And that's why delay kills more dreams than failure ever will. Failure can teach you. Failure can sharpen you. Failure can wake you up. But delay puts you to sleep while your potential bleeds out slowly. Most people aren't scared of working out, scared of starting. Because starting forces you to face reality. Starting exposes where you really are, not where you imagine yourself to be. Starting removes the comfort of fantasy. As long as you delay, the dream stays perfect in your head, untouched, unchallenged. But the moment you start, the dream meets resistance, it meets difficulty. It meets your current limitations. And instead of pushing through that discomfort, people choose to wait, thinking the dream will still be there later. But dreams don't wait, they weaken. Every time you delay action, your belief erodes just a little. You may not notice it at first, but it's happening. The first time you say, I'll start tomorrow, it feels harmless. The second time, it feels normal. The third time, it becomes a habit. Eventually, your mind stops taking your own promises seriously. You begin to doubt yourself, not because you're incapable, but because you've trained yourself to postpone what mattered. Self-trust is built through action, and it is destroyed through delay. Dreams require energy. They require emotional fuel. They require hunger, and hunger fades when it's not fed. At the beginning, the dream excites you. You feel alive thinking about it. You imagine the outcome, the impact, the freedom. But when you don't act, that excitement turns into frustration. Frustration turns into avoidance. Avoidance turns into numbness. And one day, the dream that once kept you up at night no longer moves you at all. Not because it wasn't meant for you, but because you starved it. Delay also gives fear time to grow. Fear doesn't get weaker when you wait. It gets smarter. It builds arguments. It collects evidence. It shows you everything that could go wrong. The longer you wait, the more convincing fear becomes. If you had acted early, fear would have been small and clumsy. But you waited, and now fear sounds logical, responsible, practical. It disguises itself as wisdom, but it's still fear. And it's still stealing your future. People often say they're waiting for motivation. But motivation doesn't come from thinking. It comes from movement. Motion creates emotion. When you move, your mind follows. When you wait, your mind turns against you. Delay hands your imagination over to doubt. And doubt is creative. It will paint the worst case scenarios in high definition. Meanwhile, action doesn't give doubt time to speak. Action interrupts fear. Action breaks overthinking. Action keeps the dream alive. Think about how many times you felt the urge to change. A real urge, a deep one. The kind that made your chest feel tight and your mind feel clear. Those moments are rare. They are windows, and windows close. When inspiration shows up and you don't act, it doesn't usually come back at the same intensity. You tell yourself you'll feel it again later. But later often comes with less energy, less clarity, less urgency. Delay wastes inspired moments, and inspired moments are not unlimited. Dreams also die through comparison when delayed. When you wait too long, you start watching others move. You see people who started after you make progress. You see people with fewer resources succeed. And instead of letting that push you, it discourages you. Not because you can't do it, but because you waited. Delay turns other people's success into your excuse. Action would have turned it into motivation. The tragedy is that most people don't quit their dreams consciously. They don't wake up one day and say, I give up. They just stop feeding it. They stop protecting time for it. They stop prioritizing it. Life fills the space. Responsibilities expand. Comfort settles in. And one day the dream feels unrealistic. Not because it is, but because you haven't touched it in so long. Distance creates doubt. Delay also rewires your identity. At first, you're someone with a dream. Then you become someone who talks about a dream. Then you become someone who used to have a dream. And that shift happens without a single dramatic decision. It happens through repeated postponement. Over time, you stop seeing yourself as a builder and start seeing yourself as an observer. That's a painful transition because deep down, you know you were meant for more. People love to say everything happens at the right time. That's comforting, but it's incomplete. Yes, timing matters, but timing responds to preparation and action. Waiting without working is not faith. It's avoidance. Opportunities don't just arrive because you believe. They arrive when you're moving in the right direction. Delay keeps you stationary, and stationary people miss moving opportunities. There's also a cost to delaying dreams that no one talks about. Resentment. When you don't pursue what matters to you, that unexpressed potential turns into frustration. That frustration leaks into your relationships, your attitude, your patience. You become irritated by small things. You criticize others. You complain more. Not because life is unfair, but because you're not aligned with what you were meant to do. Delay doesn't just kill dreams. It poisons the present. You might think delaying protects you from disappointment, but it actually guarantees it. Because the pain of trying and failing is temporary. The pain of never trying is permanent. Regret doesn't scream. It whispers late at night when everything is quiet. It asks questions you can't answer. Who would I have become? Those questions don't go away with time. They get louder. Dreams need urgency, not perfection. Most people delay because they want conditions to be ideal. More money, more confidence, more clarity. But clarity comes from doing. Confidence comes from surviving discomfort. Resources come from resourcefulness. If you wait for everything to line up, you'll be waiting forever. Dreams don't require readiness. They require courage. And courage is always a now decision. Every day you delay, the gap between who you are and who you want to be grows wider. And the wider that gap gets, the harder it feels to cross it. Not because it's impossible, but because it feels unfamiliar. Action keeps the gap manageable. Delay turns it into a canyon. Then people say, it's too late, when really it just feels far because they waited so long. You don't need to make a massive move to save your dream. You need to make a real move. One honest step, one uncomfortable action, one decision that says, I'm done waiting. Dreams don't ask for grand gestures every day. They ask for consistency. And consistency can only happen when you stop delaying and start showing up, even when you don't feel like it. There's a version of you that exists only if you act. And there's a version of you that exists if you keep delaying. Both are possible. Both are being shaped right now. Delay is not neutral. It's a choice. It's a direction. And it leads somewhere, just like action does. One leads to growth. The other leads to regret. The hardest part is accepting that no one is coming to rescue your dream. No one is going to force you to start. No one is going to feel the urgency for you. That responsibility belongs to you. And the moment you accept that, delay loses its power. Because you realize that waiting is not passive, it's destructive. Dreams stay alive through movement, through imperfect action, through showing up scared, through starting before you're ready. The moment you stop delaying, something shifts. Energy returns, belief strengthens, fear loses its grip. Not because the path is suddenly easy, but because the dream is breathing again. If you've been delaying, it doesn't mean the dream is dead yet. It means it's weak. And weak things can be strengthened if you act now. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Because the longer you wait, the quieter the dream becomes, until one day you can barely hear it at all. Don't let silence be the reason you never became who you were meant to be. Comfort feels good, and that's exactly why it's dangerous. Comfort doesn't announce itself as the enemy. It doesn't show up looking like failure. It shows up looking like rest, looking like balance, looking like you deserve this. Comfort tells you to slow down when you should be pressing forward. It tells you to stay where you are because it's familiar. And before you realize what's happening, comfort has quietly convinced you to abandon the very thing you were called to do. Your calling will never live in the same house as your comfort. They cannot coexist. One demands growth, pressure, stretch, and sacrifice. The other demands ease, predictability, and safety. Every time you choose comfort, you are voting against your calling, even if you don't mean to. And every time you choose your calling, you are guaranteed to feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's proof that you're moving in the right direction. Most people don't ignore their calling because they don't hear it. They hear it clearly. They feel it when they wake up in the morning with a sense that they were meant for more. They feel it when they see someone else living boldly and something inside them stirs. They feel it when success excites them instead of intimidating them. The problem isn't awareness. The problem is attachment to comfort. Comfort makes people negotiate with their purpose. I'll do it later. I'll do it when things calm down. I'll do it when I'm more secure. But calling doesn't wait for security. It demands courage. Comfort will always present itself as reasonable. It will say, be patient. It will say, don't rush. It will say, rest, say it, who got time? And sometimes patience, wisdom. Sometimes rest is necessary. But most of the time, what we call patience is actually fear dressed up as maturity. What we call waiting is actually avoidance. Comfort is clever. It doesn't tell you to quit your calling outright. It just asks you to postpone it long enough for it to lose its urges. The truth is, comfort has never built anything extraordinary. Every meaningful achievement in human history required someone to step beyond what felt safe. Growth has always demanded discomfort. Muscles grow by tearing. Minds grow by being challenged. Character grows by being tested. There's no version of your highest self that comes from staying comfortable. That version of you only exists on the other side of resistance. Comfort makes excuses sound logical. It convinces you that your circumstances are special, that your situation is different, that your timing is unique. It tells you that once things are perfect, you'll move. But perfection never comes. There will always be bills, responsibilities, fatigue, uncertainty. If you wait for comfort to give you permission, you will wait forever. Calling doesn't ask if you're comfortable, it asks if you're committed. One of the most dangerous effects of comfort is numbness. When you stay comfortable too long, you stop feeling the dissatisfaction that once pushed you forward. You stop feeling the hunger. You stop feeling the fire, not because it's gone, but because comfort has muted it. You become emotionally neutral, not unhappy, but not alive either. And that's a scary place to live because pain at least motivates change. Numbness keeps you stuck. Comfort also shrinks your tolerance for struggle. The more you avoid difficulty, the harder difficulty feels. Small challenges begin to feel overwhelming. Minor setbacks feel like confirmation that you should stop. But when you consistently step into discomfort, your capacity expands. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. What once terrified you becomes familiar. Strength is built by exposure, not avoidance. Your calling will ask things of you that comfort will never approve of. It will ask for early mornings when you want to sleep. It will ask for discipline when you want to relax. It will ask for focus when distractions are easier. It will ask for faith when results are slow. Comfort will argue against every one of those requests. It will remind you of how tired you are, how stressed you feel, how much you've already done. And sometimes those feelings are real, but they are not instructions. Feelings report conditions. They do not determine direction. Many people confuse peace with comfort, but peace is not the absence of struggle. Peace is alignment. Peace comes from knowing you are doing what you were meant to do, even when it's hard. Comfort avoids struggle, but it also avoids fulfillment. You can be comfortable and miserable at the same time. You can be uncomfortable and deeply fulfilled. Fulfillment is born from progress, not ease. Comfort also feeds fear of judgment. Staying comfortable often means staying invisible. It means not taking risks that expose you to criticism. It means not putting yourself out there where people can see you fail. But your calling requires visibility. It requires vulnerability. It requires you to be seen trying. Comfort says, what if they judge you? Calling says, what if you waste your life? One question leads to safety. The other leads to significance. There will always be a cost to pursuing your calling. Time, energy, convenience, relationships, ego. Comfort focuses on the cost and ignores the return. Calling focuses on the return and accepts the cost. You have to decide which price you're willing to pay. Because comfort also has a cost, growth. It costs potential. It costs the satisfaction of knowing you gave your best. That bill comes due later and it's heavy. Comfort loves routine because routine feels safe. And routine can be powerful when it's aligned with growth. But routine can also become a cage when it's designed to avoid challenge. If your daily habits don't stretch you, they're shrinking you. If your routine never makes you uncomfortable, it's not preparing you for anything greater. Calling disrupts routine. It forces you to rearrange your life around what matters most. You were not designed to live a life that never challenges you. You were built to adapt, to overcome, to grow. When you ignore that design, something inside you resists. That resistance shows up as restlessness, dissatisfaction, frustration. People try to medicate it with entertainment, with distractions, with comfort. But the discomfort they're running from is actually the signal calling them forward. Comfort will tell you to protect what you have. Calling will tell you to risk it for what you could become. That's a terrifying choice, and that's why so few people make it. But every person who has lived a life of impact has faced that same decision. Stay safe and small, or step out and grow. No one accidentally fulfills their calling. It's always a deliberate act of courage. You don't have to eliminate comfort completely. Rest matters, recovery matters. But comfort should be a tool, not a lifestyle. It should support your growth, not replace it. Use comfort to recharge, not to retreat. Use rest to prepare for the next challenge, not to avoid it. Your calling will keep knocking, even if you ignore it. It may get quieter, but it won't disappear. And the longer you resist it, the louder your dissatisfaction will become. Not because you're ungrateful, but because you're misaligned. Gratitude doesn't mean settling. Gratitude means appreciating where you are while still pursuing where you're meant to be. At some point, you have to ask yourself a hard question. Is my comfort costing me my purpose? Am I protecting a life that feels safe at the expense of a life that feels meaningful? Those questions are uncomfortable, but they're necessary. Because comfort will never challenge you to ask them. Calling will. You don't need to make a dramatic move today. You don't need to burn everything down. But you do need to stop choosing comfort by default. You need to start choosing growth intentionally. One uncomfortable decision at a time. One hard conversation. One disciplined habit. One step outside what feels safe. The life you admire is built on discomfort you don't see. The confidence you admire comes from fears someone walked through. The success you admire is the result of sacrifices someone made when no one was watching. Comfort would have talked them out of it. They listened to their calling instead. You will never feel fully ready to choose your calling over your comfort. Readiness is a myth. Courage is a decision, and that decision is always made in discomfort. But on the other side of that discomfort is clarity, strength, and a sense of alignment that comfort can never give you. Comfort will keep you alive. Calling will make you feel alive. And in the end, that's the choice. Not between easy and hard, but between safe and significant. There's a version of you that exists only in your imagination right now. Stronger, more disciplined, more confident, more at peace, more fulfilled. That version of you isn't a fantasy, it's a possibility, but it's not automatic. And here's the part most people don't want to face. That future version of you is completely dependent on what you choose to do today. Not tomorrow, not next year, today, right now, this moment. If the future you could speak, they wouldn't ask you for motivation. They wouldn't ask you to feel ready. They wouldn't ask you to wait until things are easier. They would ask you one simple thing, because every delay you choose today becomes a burden they have to carry later. Every excuse you make now becomes a limitation they inherit. Every hard decision you avoid today becomes a regret they have to live with. Most people think the future is something that just arrives. Like one day they'll wake up and suddenly be different. Suddenly disciplined, suddenly focused, suddenly brave. But that's not how change works. The future is built in silence, in ordinary days, in boring moments where no one is watching. The future you is not created by big promises. They are created by small actions repeated when you don't feel like it. Right now, the future you is watching how you respond to discomfort. They are watching whether you quit when things get hard or push through anyway. They are watching whether you tell the truth to yourself or keep lying to protect your comfort. And every time you choose the easy way out, the future you gets weaker. Every time you choose discipline, they get stronger. Think about it honestly. The future you wants options. They want freedom. They want peace. They want confidence. But options are built through sacrifice. Freedom is built through discipline. Peace is built through alignment. Confidence is built through kept promises. None of those things can be built later. They can only be built now. You can't send effort forward in time. You can't deposit discipline tomorrow and withdraw results today. Life doesn't work that way. The only place effort can be applied is the present. And the only way the future gets better is if present gets uncomfortable. The future you understands this. The present you often resists it. Every bad habit you ignore today doesn't disappear. It compounds. It grows roots. It becomes harder to break. The future you doesn't magically wake up with better habits. They wake up with the habits you practiced. Every good habit you delay building today becomes a struggle they have to fight later. You are either making their life easy or hard with every choice you make right now. People say they don't want to disappoint others, but they disappoint their future self every single day. They promise change and then break that promise quietly. No one sees it, but the damage is real. Because when you consistently break promises to yourself, you teach yourself that your word doesn't matter. In the future, you grows up doubting your own discipline, your own reliability, your own strength. The future, you want self-respect. And self-respect is not built by words. It's built by action. It's built when you do the thing you said you would do, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. That's where integrity is formed. That's where identity is shaped. Right now, the future you is begging you to stop negotiating with your potential. Stop saying that just this once. Stop saying I'll start next week. Stop saying I deserve a break when you haven't earned one. They know that comfort today costs confidence tomorrow. They know that shortcuts today create struggles later. They know that discipline today creates freedom later. Most people want a better future without becoming a better person. They want better results without better habits. They want confidence without competence. They want peace without responsibility. But the future doesn't work that way. The future only rewards what is practiced in the present. There is also a future version of you that exists if you keep avoiding action. Tired, bitter, full of a what ifs. That version didn't fail because they weren't capable. They failed because they kept waiting, because they kept hoping time would do the work discipline was supposed to do, because they chose comfort today and regret later. That version of you is not a punishment. It's a warning. And warnings are meant to be listened to, not ignored. You still have time, but time is not unlimited. And every day you delay makes the climb steeper, not impossible, but harder than it needed to be. The future you is begging you to understand that motivation is unreliable. You won't always feel inspired. You won't always feel strong. You won't always feel confident. That's normal. What's not normal is using feelings as instructions. Discipline is doing what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. And discipline is learned by practice, not intention. The future you doesn't need you to be perfect today. They need you to be honest. Honest about where you are. Honest about what's holding you back. Honest about the work you've been avoiding. Progress doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency. And consistency is built one decision at a time. Every time you choose to show up today, even imperfectly, you send a message forward in time. You tell the future you, I've got your back. You tell them, I'm unwilling to struggle now so you don't have to suffer later. That's what real self-love looks like, not comfort. Commitment. The future you wants clarity, but clarity doesn't come from thinking more, it comes from doing more. Action reveals what matters. Action exposes weaknesses. Action sharpens direction. Waiting only creates confusion. Overthinking only creates doubt. Movement creates understanding. The future you wants confidence, but confidence is built through evidence, and evidence comes from action. Every small win today becomes proof tomorrow. Every completed task becomes a brick in the foundation of belief. But if you don't act, there is no evidence, and belief remains fragile. The future you wants peace of mind. Peace doesn't come from avoiding problems. It comes from facing them early. Problems grow when ignored. They shrink when addressed. What feels uncomfortable to confront today becomes overwhelming tomorrow. What feels heavy today becomes unbearable later. Acting now is not just productive, it's protective. You might feel tired today. You might feel overwhelmed today. You might feel unsure today. The future you understands that. They don't expect you to be superhuman. They expect you to be responsible enough to take one step. Responsible enough to stop lying to yourself. Responsible enough to choose long-term gain over short-term relief. Every excuse you make today sounds reasonable in the moment, but excuses don't age well. They look small and weak in hindsight. The future you will not thank you for the excuses you made. God thank you for the excuse you made. They will thank you for the effort you invested. There is no such thing as a later in the way people imagine it. Later is just now again. And if you don't learn how to act now, later won't save you. The habit of delay follows you into every season of life. If you delay now, you'll delay later. If you act now, you'll act later. The future you is built by the habits you practice when no one is watching, by the discipline you choose when it's inconvenient, by the standards you hold yourself to when you could get away with less. That's how identity is formed, quietly, daily, repeatedly. You don't owe the future you perfection. You owe them effort. You owe them honesty. You owe them consistency. You owe them the courage to start even when you're afraid. Because fear doesn't disappear with time. It disappears with action. One day you will become the future you. And on that day, you will either be grateful for the choices you made or burdened by the ones you avoided. That day is coming whether you prepare for it or not. The question is not whether the future will arrive. The question is what kind of you will arrive with it. Act today, not because it's easy, not because you feel ready, but because someone is counting on you. And that someone is you. Everybody says they want it. Everybody talks about success, freedom, growth, purpose. Everybody posts quotes, shares videos, nods their head when motivation sounds good. But wanting something and being hungry for something are two completely different things. Interest sounds good in conversation. Hunger shows up in behavior. And urgency is the line that separates the two. Interested people are polite about their dreams. Hungry people are aggressive with their goals. Interested people wait for permission, for clarity, for the right moment. Hungry people move with what they have, where they are while they're uncomfortable. Urgency is not about rushing blind. It's about refusing to waste time pretending you want something you're not willing to pursue right now. Interest fades when it gets inconvenient. Hunger intensifies under pressure. That's the difference. When things get hard, interested people start explaining. Hungry people start adjusting. When obstacles show up, interested people pause. Hungry people pivot. Urgency fuels that response. Without urgency, interest stays theoretical. With urgency, hunger becomes visible. You can hear interest in the language people use. I'm thinking about it. I'm planning to. I'll start when things settle down. That's interest. Hunger sounds different. Hunger says, I don't know how yet, but I'm starting. Hunger says, I'll figure it out on the way. Hunger doesn't wait to feel confident. Hunger moves despite uncertainty, and urgency is what pushes hunger into action. Interested people love inspiration. Hungry people love execution. Inspiration feels good, but it's temporary. Execution feels uncomfortable, but it's productive. Interested people consume content and feel productive producing anything. Hungry people consume just enough to move, then they get to work. Urgency forces you to choose action over comfort, output over entertainment. When urgency is missing, effort becomes optional. Anything optional gets postponed. Hungry people don't treat effort as optional. They treat it as necessary. They don't ask if they feel like doing the work. They ask what the work requires today. That mindset doesn't come from talent. It comes from urgency. Urgency is created when you stop lying to yourself about time. Interested people think they have plenty of it. Hungry people know time is limited. That awareness changes everything. When you know time matters, you stop wasting it on things that don't move you forward. You stop arguing with discipline. You stop negotiating with your goals. You move. Interested people romanticize success. Hungry people respect the grind. Interested people focus on outcome. Hungry people focus on habits. Interested people want recognition. Hungry people want results. Urgency keeps your attention on what needs to be done now, not what you hope to get later. Pressure reveals the truth. When things get uncomfortable, interest looks for escape. Hunger looks for solution. That's why urgency is uncomfortable. It removes excuses. It exposes priorities. It forces honesty. If you say you want something, but your actions don't reflect urgency, the truth is simple. You're interested, not hungry. Hungry people don't need perfect conditions. They don't need constant motivation. They don't need approval. They create momentum by moving early and often. Urgency keeps them from overthinking. It shortens the distance between decision and action. Interested people overthink because there's no urgency to interrupt the cycle. Urgency also changes how you handle failure. Interested people see failure as a sign to stop. Hungry people see failure as feedback. They don't have time to be embarrassed. They don't have time to protect their ego. They adjust and move forward because urgency doesn't allow stagnation. There's a difference between being busy and being urgent. Busy people fill their days with activity. Urgent people fill theirs with progress. Interest stays busy. Hunger stays focused. Urgency filters out distractions. It forces you to ask, does this move me closer or farther? If it doesn't move you closer, it doesn't deserve your time. Interested people love talking about potential. Hungry people are obsessed with progress. Potential is comfortable because it doesn't require proof. Progress is uncomfortable because it demands effort. Urgency pulls you out of potential and into production. It says, show me what you're doing today. When urgency is real, excuses don't survive. You still feel tired. You still feel fear. You still feel doubt. But those feelings don't get the final vote. Interested people let feelings decide. Hungry people let priorities decide. Urgency makes priorities louder than emotions. Look at how people treat opportunities. Interested people hesitate. They ask too many questions. They wait too long. Hungry people act quickly, not recklessly, but decisively. They understand that opportunities don't wait for confidence. They respond to readiness, and readiness is built by action. Urgency doesn't mean panic, it means clarity. It means knowing what matters and refusing to delay it. Interested people confuse urgency with stress. Hungry people understand urgency as respect for time. They don't rush everything, but they don't postpone what's important. You can't fake urgency. You can say the right words, but your schedule tells the truth. What you prioritize tells the truth. Where your energy goes tells the truth. Hungry people reorganize their lives around their goal. Interested people try to fit their goals into leftover time. Urgency changes how you train, how you learn, how you prepare. Interested people train when it's convenient. Hungry people train when it's necessary. Interested people stop when it hurts. Hungry people push when it hurts because they understand growth lives there. When urgency is present, standards rise. You stop accepting mediocrity from yourself. You stop settling for good enough. You stop making excuses for miscommitments. Hungry people hold themselves accountable, even when no one else does. That accountability is fueled by urgency. Interested people wait for confidence to show up. Hungry people build confidence through action. Urgency bridges that gap. It forces movement before certainty, and movement creates evidence. Evidence builds belief. Belief strengthens hunger. Hunger sustains urgency. There's a reason some people break through and others stay stuck with the same goals year after year. It's not intelligence. It's not resources. It's urgency. Breakthroughs happen when hunger meets consistent action. Interest alone never crosses that line. Urgency also shapes resilience. Hungry people recover faster from setbacks because they don't dwell. They don't have time to sit in disappointment. They acknowledge it, learn from it, and move. Interested people dwell because there's no urgency pushing them forward. If you look closely, urgency shows up in small decisions. Do you hit snooze or get up? Do you scroll or study? Do you avoid the hard conversation or habit? These moments reveal hunger. Hungry people treat small moments like they matter. Interested people wait for big moments to change. Urgency also protects you from comparison. Interested people compare because they're watching others more than they're working themselves. Hungry people are too busy executing to compare. They respect others' success, but they're focused on their own progress. You don't become hungry by accident. Hunger is cultivated by deciding that average is no longer acceptable, by deciding that excuses are no longer valid, by deciding that time matters more than comfort. That decision creates urgency. Interested people love to say they're waiting for the right time. Hungry people understand that the right time is created through action. Urgency removes the illusion of perfect timing. It replaces it with intentional movement. There will always be people who say they want the same things you want. Very few will move with urgency. That's why urgency is a competitive advantage. It puts distance between you and the crowd. Not because you're better, but because you're willing to act sooner and more consistently. Urgency also changes how you handle rest. Interested people rest to avoid work. Hungry people rest to recover from more work. They don't rest as an escape. They rest as preparation. Urgency keeps rest purposeful, not indulgent. When urgency is real, discipline becomes non-negotiable. You stop bargaining with yourself. You stop lowering standard. You do what needs to be done because the mission matters. Hungry people don't wait for accountability. They become it. Interest is comfortable because it doesn't demand change. Hunger demands transformation. Urgency is the catalyst that forces that transformation to begin. Without urgency, hunger stays dormant. With urgency, hunger becomes unstoppable. You can feel urgency in how someone talks about their goals. There's intensity, there's focus, there's ownership. Hungry people don't speak in vague terms. They speak in commitments. They don't say someday, they say a day. The moment you stop tolerating delay is the moment urgency is born. When you decide that waiting is costing you more than acting. When you realize that comfort is expensive. When you understand that time will move whether you do or not. Urgency is not loud, it's consistent. It shows up every day. It doesn't rely on hype. It relies on habits. Hungry people don't need to feel inspired to move. They've trained themselves to move regardless. At the end of the day, the world doesn't separate people by what they want. It separates them by what they do. Interest stays in conversations. Hunger shows up in results. And urgency is what turns hunger into action. If you want to know which one you are, don't listen to your words. Watch your behavior. Watch how quickly you act when it's uncomfortable. Watch how you respond when it's hard. That's where urgency lives. And that's where hunger reveals itself. Time does not have emotions. It does not care how tired you are, how unfair life feels, or how many reasons you have for not being where you want to be yet. Time does not listen to explanations. It does not slow down because you're hurting. It does not speed up because you're motivated. Time simply moves constantly, relentlessly, and while you're busy justifying why you can't act right now, time is quietly moving forward, carrying your opportunities with it. Excuses feel personal, but time treats everyone the same, rich or poor, confident or insecure, focused or distracted. Time gives each person the same 24 hours and asks one silent question. What will you do with them? Not what do you plan to do? Not what do you hope to do? What did you actually do? And when the day ends, time records your actions, not your intention. Most people believe their excuses are unique. They think their situation is special. They think their struggles justify their delays. But time does not grade on a curve. It doesn't compare your pain to someone else's pain and decide to give you extra chances. It doesn't say you've been through a lot, so I'll wait. Time moves whether you move or not. And that's not cruel. That's neutral. But neutrality feels brutal when you waste it. Excuses are comforting because they protect your ego. They give you a story that allows you to feel okay about not acting. They make inactivity feel justified. But time does not accept stories. It accepts only action. You can explain yourself all day, but the clock will still tick. And every tick is a moment you either invested or lost. People say they're busy. Time doesn't care. People say they're overwhelmed. Time doesn't pause. People say they're not ready. Time doesn't wait. Readiness is not a requirement for time to move forward. Action is the only thing that keeps you aligned with it. One of the hardest truths to accept is that excuses sound reasonable in the moment, but look ridiculous in hindsight. What feels valid today feels weak tomorrow. You look back and realize that the reasons you thought were holding you back were not walls. They were doors you never tried to open. And time doesn't rewind, so you can try again under the same condition. Time exposes pattern. If you consistently make excuses, time will eventually show you the results of that habit. Not immediately. Slowly, quietly. Missed opportunities, stagnant growth, repeated frustration. You won't always notice it day to day, but years later it becomes undeniable. And by then, explaining why you didn't act doesn't change the outcome. Excuses are still momentum. Every time you delay, it becomes easier to delay again. Time doesn't break that cycle for you, it strengthens it. The longer you wait, the harder it feels to start. Not because the task got harder, but because your habit of avoiding it got stronger. Time rewards momentum and punishes hesitation, not out of malice, but out of consistency. You can tell yourself you're waiting for the right moment, but time does not produce perfect moments. It produces opportunity wrapped in uncertainty. Those opportunities require action to be revealed. If you hesitate, time moves on and offers them to someone else who is willing to act with less information and more courage. Time doesn't care how passionate you are about your excuses. You can believe them wholeheartedly. You can repeat them to others. You can even convince yourself they're valid. Time remains unmoved. It keeps advancing, collecting the consequences of your choices without judgment. Many people confuse understanding their struggles with being entitled to delay. Yes, your struggles are real. Yes, your challenges matter. But acknowledging difficulty is not the same as surrendering to it. Time respects effort, not excuses. It responds to movement, not explanation. There are people with fewer resources, less support, and more obstacles who move faster than those with advantages. Why? Because time doesn't respond to fairness. It responds to action. It doesn't measure how hard your life has been. It measures what you did with what you had. Excuses often come from fear, but fear doesn't stop time. Fear doesn't slow it down. Fear just makes you watch it pass. And watching time pass without acting creates a unique kind of pain, a quiet regret, a constant awareness that you are capable of more but choosing less. Time also doesn't care how long you've already waited. It doesn't say, you've delayed long enough, I'll give you a break. It doesn't reset. If anything, the cost of waiting increases the longer you do it. Not because time is punishing you, but because opportunities compound when acted on and decay when ignored. Every excuse you make today becomes a reason you have to overcome tomorrow. What you avoid now doesn't disappear. It follows you. It waits, and it usually grows. Time turns small problems into big ones when they're ignored. It turns small efforts into massive results when they're repeated. People often say, I'll do it when I have more time. That statement reveals a misunderstanding. You never get more time. You only get the same time used differently. Time doesn't expand to accommodate your priorities. Your priorities determine how your time is used. Time doesn't care about your mood. Some days you'll feel motivated. Some days you won't. Time moves through both days equally. If you only act when you feel good, you'll waste half your life waiting. Discipline is the ability to act regardless of mood. And discipline is how you stay aligned with time. Excuses feel protective in the short term. They protect you from discomfort, from fear, from effort, but they expose you to long-term pain. Time ensures that trade-off. You either face discomfort now or regret later. There is no third option. Time also reveals honesty. You can lie to others. You can even lie to yourself. Your life eventually becomes the evidence of how you use your time. Not what you say you value, what you actually prioritize. One of the most dangerous excuses is I'll start when I'm confident. Time doesn't deliver confidence. Confidence is built through action. Waiting for confidence is like waiting for strength before lifting the weight. Strength comes from lifting. Confidence comes from acting. Another common excuse is I'm too tired. And sometimes that's true. Rest is necessary. But time exposes whether rest is recovery or avoidance. Recovery prepares you to move again. Avoidance keeps you stuck. Time treats them very differently in the long run. Time doesn't care how much potential you have. Potential unused is meaningless to time. It only responds to applied effort. You can be incredibly gifted and still fall behind if you keep making excuses. You can be average and still progress if you act consistently. Time rewards consistency more than talent. There is no negotiation with time. You can't bargain with it. You can't explain your way out of its consequences. You can only align with it or fight it. And fighting time always ends the same way: exhaustion and regret. Excuses often sound like protection, but they are actually delays dressed up as logic. They feel intelligent, they feel responsible, but time strips them down to their results. Years later, no one remembers your reasons. They remember your outcomes, including you. Time doesn't announce when an opportunity is leaving. It doesn't send warnings. It doesn't give countdowns. It just moves. And one day you realize something is no longer available. Not because it was taken from you, but because you didn't move when it was within reach. People who respect time don't make fewer mistakes. They just recover faster. They don't waste energy explaining. They adjust and move. They understand that time values course correction more than perfection. Time also doesn't care about how long you've been thinking about doing something. Thinking doesn't count. Planning doesn't count. Talking doesn't count. Only action counts. Time measures progress and movement, not intention. Every excuse delays feedback, and feedback is how you grow. When you delay learning, you delay improvement, you delay clarity. Time doesn't compensate for that lost learning later. It just moves forward, leaving you less prepared than you could have been. Excuses feel safe because they keep you in familiar territory. But time doesn't care about familiarity. It cares about alignment. If you stay where you are while time moves on, the gap between you and your goals widens. Not suddenly, but steadily. There's no excuse you can make today that time will accept tomorrow. Tomorrow, time will only show you what your excuse costs you. That's the brutal honesty of it. Time is the ultimate mirror. It reflects your priorities back to you in the form of your life. You don't need to eliminate every excuse to move forward. You just need to stop letting them decide. You can act scared. You can act tired. You can act uncertain. Time respects action in all those states. It ignores explanations in all of them. Time is not your enemy. It's your amplifier. It magnifies whatever you do consistently. If you consistently make excuses, time will magnify regret. If you consistently take action, time will magnify progress. It doesn't choose sides. It multiplies habit. Every day you wake up, time gives you a choice without asking a question. Use this or lose this. Invest or waste. Act or explain. And at the end of your life, time will not ask why you didn't do more. It will simply show you what you did. Excuses are temporary relief. Action is permanent progress. Time will always side with action. Always. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you stop trying to convince time and start working with it. Most people don't fail because they don't want it bad enough. They fail because they keep thinking they have time. They fail because they believe tomorrow is promised. They fail because they treat urgency like an option instead of a responsibility. And I came to tell you today that procrastination is not patience, delay is not wisdom, and waiting is not strategy. Waiting is fear dressed up as logic. Waiting is comfort pretending to be caution. Waiting is a silent killer of destiny. You keep saying, I'll do it when the time is right. But what you really mean is, I'll do it when it's easy, when it's safe, when I'm guaranteed. And life doesn't work like that. Purpose doesn't move on your schedule. Opportunity doesn't wait for your confidence to catch up. Dreams don't stay alive forever. They expire when you keep postponing the work. Let me tell you something real. The clock is undefeated. It has taken down kings, champions, geniuses, legends. It doesn't care how talented you are. It doesn't care how much potential you have. It doesn't care how big your vision is. Time only respects action. And every second you hesitate, that second is gone forever. You don't get it back. You don't rewind it. You don't negotiate with it. You don't pray it back. It's gone. And one day you're going to wake up and realize the years you thought you had were already spent thinking instead of doing, planning instead of building, talking instead of executing. Some of you are waiting for motivation. You're waiting to feel ready. You're waiting for confidence to show up like a delivery package at your door. But confidence doesn't come before action. Confidence comes because of action. Courage doesn't show up before the jump. Courage shows up midair when there's no turning back. You don't wake up fearless. You become fearless because you moved while you were afraid. And the people you admire, the people you look up to, the people you call successful, they didn't wait for perfect conditions. They moved in chaos. They moved in uncertainty. They moved when the odds were against them. They moved when nobody clapped. They moved when nobody believed. They moved when failure was still very possible. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Urgency reveals priorities. If something really matters to you, you don't keep postponing. If it truly matters, you find a way. You make time. You adjust. You sacrifice. You say no to distractions. You say no to comfort. You say no to excuses. But if you keep saying a later, what you're really saying is, ooh, this isn't important enough right now. And that's hard to swallow, but it's necessary. Because until you get honest with yourself about what you're avoiding, you'll keep living the same year on repeat, just with a different calendar. I need you to understand this. The future you want is built by the decisions you make under pressure today. Not when things calm down. Not when life slows up. Not when you finally have time. Life never slows down. Responsibility never reduces. Pressure never disappears. There will always be something pulling at you. something demanding your attention, something asking for your energy. And if you keep waiting for life to give you permission to chase your dream, you'll die with permission unused. You don't need more information. You don't need another video. You don't need another book. You don't need another confirmation. You need execution. You need discipline. You need to move even when your emotions are inconsistent, because feelings lie. Feelings will tell you you're tired when you're capable. Feelings will tell you it's not the right time when the opportunity is right in front of you. Feelings will convince you to stay comfortable instead of becoming great. And if you let your emotions drive, your destiny will always be delayed. There are people right now who are less talented than you, less gifted than you, less intelligent than you, less prepared than you, but they are ahead of you because they acted. They didn't wait to feel ready. They didn't wait for approval. They didn't wait for conditions to improve. They moved. And movement creates momentum. Momentum creates belief. Belief creates consistency, creates results. But none of that starts without urgency. Let me be clear. Urgency does not mean rushing blindly. It means respecting time enough to act decisively. It means understanding that hesitation has a cost. It means knowing that every day you delay is a day you don't get back. It means waking up with intention. It means attacking the day instead of letting the day attack you. It means saying, I will not waste today wondering what could have been. Because one day today will be the past you wish you handled differently. Some of you are waiting because you're scared of failing. But let me flip that on you. What if the real failure isn't falling short? What if the real failure isn't falling short? What if the real failure is never trying at full capacity? What if the real failure is knowing you have more in you and never demanding it from yourself? Regret lasts longer than pain. Failure teaches. Regret harms. Pain fades. Regret stays. And I'd rather you fail trying than succeed at playing small. And listen to me carefully. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to push you. Nobody is coming to force discipline into your life. This is on you. Your future is your responsibility. Your growth is your responsibility. Your healing is your responsibility. Your success is your responsibility. And once you accept that, urgency becomes natural. When you realize that nobody else is going to do the work for you, you stop wasting time. You don't need permission to start. You don't need approval to move. You don't need applause to continue. You need commitment. You need consistency. You need the kind of urgency that says, even if I don't feel like it, I'm doing it anyway. Because the days you don't feel like it are the days that separate average from exceptional. Anybody can work when they're motivated. Anybody can show up when they're excited, but champions move when it's inconvenient. Not today matter, not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, today. Make today count, make today uncomfortable, make today productive, make today intentional. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. Do something today that scares you a little. Do something today that moves the needle, even if it's small. Progress compounds, momentum compounds, discipline compounds, but only if you start now. Stop romanticizing the future while neglecting the present. The future you dream about is built in the unglamorous work you keep avoiding. It's built in early mornings, late nights, repetition, failure, adjustment, discipline, sacrifice. That's where tomorrow was written, not in wishing, not in hoping, not in waiting, but in doing. You don't know how much time you have. None of us do, and that's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. If you knew you had 1 year left, you wouldn't keep postponing your purpose. If you knew you had 6 months left, you wouldn't keep making excuses. If you knew you had 30 days left, you wouldn't waste them scrolling, complaining, hesitating. So live like time matters, because it does. Urgency is not panic. It's clarity. It's knowing what matters and refusing to delay it. It's choosing growth over comfort. It's choosing action over fear. It's choosing discipline over distraction. And once you develop urgency, your life changes. Your standards rise. Your habits sharpen. Your focus intensifies. And your future starts responding to the effort you're putting in today. So don't leave today unused. Don't go to sleep knowing you could have done more. Don't let another day pass where your potential stays untouched. The moment is now. The work is now. The decision is now, and the tomorrow you want depends entirely on what you do with today. At some point in life, you have to stop asking what could happen and start deciding what must happen. There comes a moment when dreaming is no longer enough, when intention is no longer enough, when hope without action becomes a form of self-betrayal. And that moment is now, because the future is not something that simply arrives. It is something you build, brick by brick, decision by decision, day by day. And whether you like it or not, whether you're ready or not, you are already writing your tomorrow with what you choose today. Most people live like life is a rehearsal, like there will be another chance to get serious, another season to lock in, another opportunity to give their best. But this is not a practice run. This is it. Every day you wake up, you are either moving closer to the life you say you want or further away from it. There's no neutral. There is no standing still. You are either growing or declining, building or breaking, choosing intentionally or drifting unconsciously. And drifting is dangerous because it feels comfortable, but it takes you nowhere. You don't accidentally create a meaningful life. You don't stumble into purpose. You don't randomly leave a legacy. Those things require ownership. And ownership starts when you stop blaming circumstances, stop blaming people, stop blaming your past, and stop blaming your emotion. Ownership is when you say, well, no matter what happens to me, no matter where I started, no matter what I didn't get, I am responsible for what happens next. That mindset changes everything, because once you own your life, urgency follows, discipline follows, consistency follows. Some of you are still waiting for validation. You want someone to tell you you're good enough. You want someone to believe in you before you believe in yourself. You want approval before you take action. But validation is a trap, because if you need permission to start, you need permission to continue. And the world does not owe you belief. The world responds to results. It responds to effort. It responds to consistency. And belief often comes after evidence, not before it. Let me tell you something hard but freeing. Nobody owes you your dream. Nobody owes you success. Nobody owes you opportunity. You earn those things by how you show up when nobody is watching, by how you work when there's no applause, by how you stay disciplined when motivation disappears. That's where destiny is shaped, not in big moments, but in private decisions. You have to stop outsourcing your future to chance. Hope is not a plan. Wishful thinking is not a strategy. Potential is not a guarantee. There are graveyards full of people who were full of potential. Potential without urgency is wasted energy. Potential without discipline is just imagination. Imagination alone will never change your life. Execution will. The truth is, the future is unwritten, but it is not undecided. It is being decided right now by what you tolerate, what you repeat, and what you avoid. Every habit you keep is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every excuse you accept is a brick in the wall between you and your goals. And every day you delay difficult work, that work doesn't disappear. It waits. And it waits with interest. You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your habits. And if your habits don't match the future you want, urgency demands that you change them now. Not someday. Not next month. Not after things calm down. Now. Because the longer you wait to become who you need to be, the longer you delay the life you want to live. Some of you are fighting invisible battles: doubt, fear, imposter syndrome, trauma, disappointment. And instead of confronting them, you're letting them decide your pace. You're letting them slow you down. You're letting them convince you that you're not ready. But healing does not mean waiting until you feel perfect. Healing happens while you move. Strength develops under pressure. Confidence grows through repetition. And clarity often comes after commitment, not before. You don't need to know every step. You just need to take the next one. Most people want certainty before they move, but certainty is earned through motion. You move, you learn. You act, you adjust. You fail, you refine. That's how growth works. Waiting for clarity before action is like waiting for strength before lifting weights. It doesn't make sense. You get strong by lifting. You get clear by moving. And let me say this clearly, your excuses sound reasonable to you, but they don't change reality. Life does not reward reasons. It rewards results. It does not care how busy you are, how tired you are, how unfair it feels. Results come from discipline applied daily. And discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. If you're honest, you know what you need to do. You don't lack information. You lack urgency. You know which habits need to stop. You know which conversations are holding you back. You know which distractions are draining you. You know which discipline you've been avoiding. The problem isn't awareness, it's action. And the longer you delay action, the louder regret becomes. At some point, you have to decide that comfort is too expensive. That stand the same cost more than changing. That avoiding pain today creates bigger pain tomorrow. Growth is uncomfortable, but stagnation is suffocating. And deep down, you feel it, that restlessness, that frustration, that sense that you were meant for more. That's not dissatisfaction, that's potential demanding responsibility. Legacy is not about fame. It's not about money. It's about impact. It's about becoming someone who honored their time, used their gifts, and showed up fully. Legacy is built when you stop asking what's convenient and start asking what's necessary. When you stop asking what feels good and start asking what's right. When you decide that your life will mean something because you refuse to waste it. You don't get unlimited chances. You get this moment, this breath, this day. And while tomorrow is not guaranteed, today is in your hands. What you do with it matters. How you use it matters. Whether you show up fully or halfway matters. Because one day you won't get another chance to rewrite today. So live with urgency, not anxiety. Urgency rooted in purpose. Urgency rooted in responsibility. Urgency rooted in respect for time. Respect for opportunity. Respect for the gifts you've been given. Wake up knowing that this day is a building block, not a placeholder. That this effort is part of something bigger. That what you do now echoes forward. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Doesn't exist. Stop waiting for permission. You already have it. Stop waiting for confidence. Build it through action. Stop waiting for motivation. Rely on discipline and stop waiting for someday. Someday is not a date on the calendar. Someday is a decision you keep avoiding. This is your life. This is your moment. This is your responsibility. And the future you want is not out there waiting for you, but it's being created by the choices you make right now. Choose urgency. Choose ownership. Choose action. Choose to write a tomorrow that you won't regret. And so it comes down to this moment right here. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. Right now. Because everything you've heard, everything you felt, everything that stirred inside you during this message means absolutely nothing if you walk away and go back to living the same way you lived before. Inspiration without action is entertainment. Emotion without execution is just noise. And motivation that doesn't change behavior fades faster than applause. You already know what you need to do. Deep down, you don't need another reminder. You don't need another quote. You don't need another video. You need to decide. Decide that today matters. Decide that your life matters. Decide that your dreams matter enough for you to suffer a little, sacrifice a little, and stretch beyond who you've been comfortable being. Because comfort has been costing you. It's been stealing your potential. It's been delaying your greatness. It's been whispering excuses into your ear and convincing you that tomorrow will always be there. But tomorrow is not guaranteed. And even when it comes, it only rewards those who prepared today. Let me tell you something real. The future does not belong to the smartest. It does not belong to the most talented. It does not belong to the luckiest. The future belongs to the disciplined. It belongs to the consistent. It belongs to the people who show up when they don't feel like it. It belongs to the ones who keep going when nobody is watching. It belongs to the ones who refuse to quit on themselves. You don't become extraordinary by accident. You become extraordinary by choice. You choose to wake up early when you rather sleep. You choose to practice when you rather relax. You choose to learn when you rather scroll. You choose growth when comfort is calling your name. And those choices, repeated daily, shape your destiny. Some of you are standing at the edge of something new right now. A new level, a new season, a new version of yourself. And fear is telling you to step back. Doubt is telling you you're not ready. Your past is reminding you of every mistake you've ever made. But hear me clearly. Your past does not get to decide your future unless you give it permission. What happened to you does not define what's possible for you. Where you started does not determine where you can finish. Stop letting yesterday negotiate your tomorrow. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not too far gone. As long as you have breath in your body, you have opportunity in your hands. As long as you can still choose, you can still change. As long as you can still move, you can still grow. But you have to act. You have to stop waiting for perfect conditions and start creating progress in imperfect ones. Understand this, nobody builds a powerful life without pressure. Nobody reaches their potential without resistance. Nobody becomes great without going through something. The struggle is not a sign that you're off track. The struggle is proof that you're in the process. Pain is part of the journey. Failure is part of the journey. Doubt is part of the journey. But quitting does not have to be. And I need you to promise yourself something today. Promise that you will stop playing small. Promise that you will stop shrinking your dreams to fit your fears. Promise that you will stop settling for average when greatness is calling your name. Promise that you will stop negotiating with laziness and start honoring your purpose. Because purpose demands urgency. Your family needs the best version of you. Your future needs a disciplined version of you. Your dreams need the courageous version of you. And the world needs what you carry. Yes, you, your voice, your story, your gifts, your perspective. There are people whose lives will change because you decided not to quit. There are doors that will open because you stay consistent. There are futures that will shift because you chose to rise. But none of that happens if you stay stuck in excuses. Stop saying you don't have time. Make time. Stop saying you don't have resources. Use what you have. Stop saying you're not ready. Start anyway. Readiness is built in motion. Confidence is built in repetition. Strength is built in struggle. Every day is a chance to get closer or drift further away. Every morning you wake up with a choice. Will you honor your potential or waste another opportunity? Will you show up fully or halfway? Will you do what's necessary or what's comfortable? You don't need to change your whole life today. You just need to change today. You don't need to fix everything at once. You just need to take the next right step. Small actions done consistently create massive change. Don't underestimate the power of one disciplined decision repeated daily. And when it gets hard, because it will, remember why you started. Remember the nights you cried. Remember the days you felt invisible. Remember the moments you promised yourself that things would be different. Use that. Let that fuel you. Let that push you. Let that remind you that you didn't come this far to stop now. There will be days when motivation disappears. There will be days when progress feels slow. There will be days when quitting feels easier than continuing. That's when discipline has to carry you. That's when commitment matters. That's when you prove to yourself who you really are. Champions don't wait for perfect days. They dominate imperfect ones. You are stronger than your excuses. You are bigger than your fears. You are capable more than you've allowed yourself to believe. But belief alone is not enough. Faith without works is dead. Vision without effort is fantasy. Dreams without discipline remain dreams. So let today be different. Let today be the day you stop delaying your destiny. Let today be the day you take ownership of your future. Let today be the day you decide that comfort will no longer control you. Let today be the day you choose urgency. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to move while you're afraid. You don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to take the next step. And when you look back on this moment one day, I want you to be proud. Proud that you didn't let this message fade. Proud that you acted. Proud that you acted. Proud that you became who you were meant to be. Because the future is unwritten. But it's waiting on what you do right now. Go build it.